Regulator calls crypto theories associated with Signature Bank closure ludicrous. Adrian A. Harris, the superintendent of New York's Department of Financial Services, has branded as ludicrous the claims that the closure of Signature Bank was related to its crypto business. Harris insisted that the bank's high percentage of uninsured deposits and insufficient liquidity were some of the reasons why it was closed. Head of the New York State's Department of Financial Services, DFS, Adrian A. Harris, recently reiterated the regulator's stance that the closure of Signature Bank had nothing to do with its crypto bank.
Back from the Silicon Valley bank shutdown and the USDC crisis that followed. Now, and others suggesting that this bank was taken over because it was meant to send an anti-crypto message. This was pretty incendiary comments from a former, co-sponsor of the Dodd-Frank bill, a former stalwart of banking regulations in DC. And this got a lot of people wondering, what is going on with Signature? Was this a targeted takedown on the part of state and federal regulators who didn't like that it was serving crypto customers? Barney Frank here alleged that the balance sheet was fine. Things were solvent when NYDFS folks stepped in and took over control. Now, the NYDFS is out here pushing back on that, saying that they had lost confidence in bank's leadership and had to intervene. And now some additional reporting has also suggested that the DOJ was potentially looking into Signature for potential irregularities with new customers coming onto that bank and using some of their crypto services. This one, I think, is probably the biggest story out of this whole weekend. And we had a lot of big things that were brewing over the weekend with SVB, USDC depegging. But this one, if it is potentially as incendiary as what Barney Frank is saying, is quite interesting and a very important signal for how the U.S. crypto industry should proceed here going forward. I'm going to toss this to Will. I don't know if you saw the storm that this kicked up when these comments were made, but what's your take on sort of the he said, she said that we're now seeing unfold?
Yeah, he said, she said is the perfect way of putting it, Zach. I was actually about to use that phrase myself because that's what seems to be happening right now. We have a bunch of banks explode. We have a Signature Bank, which has a very important place within the crypto industry itself, go under. And at the peak of that is Barney Frank, a longtime congressman and the key piece of this Dodd-Frank legislation back in 2010 when the Great Recession occurred, and they put in a new banking regulation to protect against the very thing that then occurred about 10 years later at his very own bank that he was a board member on. So a lot of he said, she said is going to be going on the next few weeks against all these different agencies, the members of Signature, the members of the board of Signature, and the customers of Signature as well, going to be asking what exactly was going on here. On crypto Twitter, we already have like the tinfoil hats out, of course, saying like this was an active takedown of Signature. That could be true based on Barney Frank's comments. But then we have the DOJ and others coming back against it and saying, no, these people were not acting correctly. They had many other customers besides crypto customers that we need to take care of. In order to do this correctly, we needed to shut down this bank and do it quickly and do it efficiently. And to their point, the FDIC has stepped in. They have backed all deposits. It doesn't seem like anyone is really going to be coming out of this without their shirt on. They're going to be okay. Still, the question remains, why would Barney Frank say this? And why would he put his reputation on the line to say something so inflammatory like this when all these other government agencies obviously took a step that was a little bit different than that? So we'll see what happens with this one. It's going to be something that we're going to be tracking for quite a while because it does answer this key question. Does the U.S. government, specifically the Biden administration and the administrations around it, like the DOJ, actively have a bent against crypto or not? I think we're really in the thick of the fire here with Barney Frank's comments. Jen, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, Barney Frank, as a board member of Signature Bank and as someone who has operated within government for so many years, I think has a better understanding of the inner working of both entities. So I think that's why his words were so strong and triggered all of this discussion that we've seen lately in the news. And I think that they should be taken seriously, right? This statement might not have held so much weight if we didn't have so many regulators come out within the last month and warn against banks that were servicing crypto clients, right? We heard from at least 2 regulators in the last month saying, banks, if you have crypto clients, if you're dealing with crypto, consider this your warning. Be careful. We think it's very risky. And I think that all of these little signals kind of put some weight behind what Barney was saying. And I think maybe if the main reason to close this bank down, according to the regulators, had nothing to do with crypto, it would be silly for us to sit here and think that crypto didn't influence the decision. Maybe it wasn't the number one reason, but I think it would be very, very silly of us, given all the information we have, to say that it didn't definitely influence it. Zach?
I mean, it's hard to say at this point. Like, Barney Frank here has a horse in this race, right? He wants to make his banking institution look as good as it can possibly look and say, hey, the books were good. This was meant to send a message, right? Hey, that Operation Choke Point 2.0 thing that you guys have been conspiracizing over for the last 3 months, this is real. This is an escalation of that. So there is obviously some self-interestedness in making a statement such as this, especially if we're seeing some of these other claims come out on the part of NYDFS. So it really is going to be hard to suss out what's going on, but it certainly is a huge wake-up call and sort of lends credence again to this Operation Choke Point 2.0 idea that stems from that January pronouncement from the FDIC, the OCC, and the Fed saying that, yo, banks, don't mess with crypto. That stuff's risky. That was a initial sort of pronouncement that sort of was the embers of this. And now with Signature, we see that potentially turn into quite the fire if crypto is going to be allowed to use banking services in the US from here out. And I think this is going to be really, really interesting to see how difficult it is for crypto firms and those who, are working within the US financial system, who operate in dollars, but who touch crypto in some way, shape, or form. It's going to be really interesting to see if those folks can go to any of these banks and ultimately get the services that they need to operate as a business here in the US. And I think that's what a lot of people are really, really worried about. And maybe rightfully so in the wake of this Signature Bank takeover. Really, really interesting, honestly, to me, that Signature Bank was taken over while First Republic Bank, for instance, was given something like $70 billion in backstop from JP Morgan and the Federal Reserve. Just a fascinating sort of, tale of two cities that we're seeing unfold here with those particular examples. And yeah, this is a story to watch for sure. Will, last thoughts on this one before we change gears?
Yeah, I don't have anything original to take here. I think you guys are spot on. This is something to watch. Barney Frank's position as both the co-author of this very important banking regulation from 2010 and also his placement on the board puts him in an unusual footing. Is he protecting his reputation on the banking front? Is he protecting his reputation on the banking firm from the regulation side that he crafted a decade ago? It's really hard to parse. It's really hard to look into this. And I think we're going to see both a lot of character smearing, and I think we're going to see a lot of pointed fingers and a lot of back and forth on this specific topic over the next few weeks.